It's no secret that the New York Knicks are in the market for that superstar player to help add to their team to create that championship contender in the Eastern Conference. And every single person has an opinion on it. And you've probably heard a lot of different people speak on the matter and discuss who the New York Knicks should go after. So, of course, ESPN's own Stephen A. Smith, their resident New York Knicks fan, has to give his opinion. And he did. And his opinion is that the Knicks should actually go after and target Karl-Anthony Towns. We're going to break down exactly who he said, but not only that, who he's actually comfortable with including in the deal. All of this and so much more today. So be sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on so you never miss a second of any of the new content. And now, let's get started. Stephen A. Smith wants the New York Knicks to trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. Now, if you're not new to this channel, then you already know my position. I don't like Cat. I don't want Cat on the New York Knicks. And I do not want Leon Rose and company to target Karl-Anthony Towns. But before I give my opinion on it, let's go ahead and see what Stephen A. Smith said and why he wants the New York Knicks to go after Karl-Anthony Towns. So according to ESPN, Stephen A. Smith, he wants the New York Knicks to leverage their assets and more specifically, wants them to build a new big three by potentially acquiring Karl-Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Timberwolves. But get this, Knicks fans, he's actually comfortable in including R.J. Barret in the deal if it serves the team's interest. So I'm already hot by hearing this report. But you know what? Let's continue and see exactly what he said. So this is exactly what Stephen A. Smith said about the situation. I think you're going to have to let go of Karl-Anthony Towns. I would love Karl-Anthony Towns in New York. I'd love to see Jalen Brunson passing the ball to him. I wish I could see it with him, Julius Randle, and Karl-Anthony Towns. You got 11 picks over the next 7 years. He wants to see a front court of Karl-Anthony Towns and Julius Randle. Let's continue. He also says the following. If I'm the New York Knicks, I'm getting on the phone with Minnesota and I'm offering picks. I'm willing to give up 3 first-round picks plus a couple of players, including R.J. Barret. So he wants to include one of our youngest assets, an asset right now whose stock is rising all the way to the top, who's looking like one of the best players on the Knicks team right now. He wants us to trade him away for Karl-Anthony Towns. And not only that, 3 first-round picks from the New York Knicks, likely unprotected as well too. Now here's the thing. I get some people like Karl-Anthony Towns, and I understand why. They like the fact that as a big man, he's one of the best shooting bigs in the entire NBA. I understand that. I recognize that. And on a certain roster, Karl-Anthony Towns is going to thrive and take that next team to the next level and make them a better franchise because of it. But he has to be around certain players in order for him to do that. Right now, he's arguably around one of the best young prospects in the league in Anthony Edwards. He has one of the best defenders in terms of a center in Rudy Gobert. And he still cannot get it done. Now, maybe that's not the best roster to have around Karl-Anthony Towns. Maybe you need more shooters around Karl-Anthony Towns, or maybe you need to have more people who are dominant in the paint around Karl-Anthony Towns so that way he can help stretch the floor more. Maybe that's the roster you need around Towns to make him more impactful and more effective in the NBA. But the New York Knicks do not have that roster. And if you trade away significant pieces to get Karl-Anthony Towns and you reduce the picks that you have in order to go after and get another player, what are you doing with the trade? Karl-Anthony Towns on this Knicks team, if you have to give up R.J. Barret, let's say Quentin Grimes, Emmanuel Quickley, and 2 or 3 first-round picks that are unprotected. If that's the offer that's on the table, which, by the way, I don't think it gets it done. I think that the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to ask for more. And if Leon Rose gives up and gives in, gives the Minnesota Timberwolves more assets, and they get Karl-Anthony Towns, and let's say it's Jalen Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Julius Randle. Let me ask you, is that a championship contender in the Eastern Conference? Are you happy about that team? Are you bragging about that team to your friends? I don't think so. They're not better than Boston. They're not better than Milwaukee. They might be the third best team in the East, but couldn't you make that argument right now? So you're trading away picks and players to make an argument or a case for something that you could make the same argument for right now. I don't think that Karl-Anthony Towns makes this New York Knicks team that much better than it is right now. If you're going to give up assets, significant assets, players like R.J. Barret, who are ascending right now, then you have to get me a superstar level player. Towns gets paid like a superstar and does not play like a superstar. That is not the trade that the New York Knicks could make. I get it. Stephen A., I understand why you want the Knicks to make this trade. You want them to get better. You want them to compete even more in the Eastern Conference because you, like me, see that it's wide open. And the team that can strike first might be able to make a statement in the East, might be able to attract more talent to the New York Knicks. I hear you. But this is the wrong move. When you make a move as significant as this, especially with Karl-Anthony Towns, who's going to start his Supermax next year, when you take all of those things into consideration, this is one of the worst moves the Knicks could make. It could set the franchise back a few years by making this move. Because if the Knicks are not good after they get Karl-Anthony Towns, they are probably going to be like that for the next few years. And then they're going to have to hope and pray that another team is going to want to accept Karl-Anthony Towns and his massive contract in the NBA today. And then they're going to have to hope that they get significant assets back for Towns that they can use to build with, so that way they don't have to start a fresh, redone rebuild in New York. Because that's the hope right now if you make a Karl-Anthony Towns trade. You have to make sure as a franchise today that you don't make the wrong move. Because if you make the wrong trade, you could absolutely set your franchise back a few years. And Karl-Anthony Towns is the wrong move and the wrong trade for the New York Knicks to make right now. He's making too much money. He's going to cost too many assets. And he's not worth any of that in terms of what he would give you on the offensive end. That's just my opinion on the matter, though. And I think Stephen A. is speaking more with emotion than with his brain or his heart here, because he wants the Knicks to be better than they were last year. And Karl-Anthony Towns may make the Knicks better than they are right now and than they were last year. But it's not a huge upgrade. It's not a massive upgrade. And that's why I'm against the move so much. And when you talk about the players that Stephen A. Smith is comfortable in including in the deal, R.J. Barret, for me, that's already a no-go. I do not want to include R.J. Barret in this deal to get Karl-Anthony Towns. Because again, I don't think that Karl-Anthony Towns makes this Knicks team that much better. And I want to retain R.J. Barret, who seemed like his stock is rising right now. It seems like he's hitting his stride at the right moment. And I actually want to ride this roller coaster out and see where it goes. I don't want to trade him early on and then have another team be able to get that type of play from R.J. Barret and then some year after year after year. Karl-Anthony Towns is not the answer. I don't think the Knicks should make this deal. Should they call and ask Minnesota what it would take to get a Towns deal done? Absolutely, because you want to monitor the situation and you want to do your due diligence. So I would expect nothing less if the New York Knicks did that. But if their offer, if Minnesota said, yeah, we'll do the deal, but I want R.J. Barret, Quentin Grimes, oh yeah, and 2 or 3 unprotected first-round picks from you, I would say, thank you, but that's not going to work. Hang up the phone and never call them again. Because when we're talking about a Karl-Anthony Towns deal, when we're talking about a trade, We have to call it fair, and we have to make sure that when we make the deal, after the deal is done, the Knicks are better and they're in a better position than they were before. And if you can't guarantee that that's the case, then don't make the deal. For me, if the Knicks make that trade for Cat, you can't guarantee that they're going to be better than where they are right now. And because of that, I'm not doing the deal. That's just my opinion on it. But what about you guys? Let me know in the comments. Would you make this deal for Karl-Anthony Towns? Do you like Cat? Like Stephen A. Smith said, would you give up these significant assets to get Karl-Anthony Towns on the New York Knicks? Let me know in the comments, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below, and of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans. Peace.